The Sound and the Fury, by William Faulkner. April 7, 1928. Through the fence, between the curling flower spaces, I could see them hitting. They were coming toward where the flag was, and I went along the fence. Lester was hunting in the grass by the flower tree. They took the flag out, and they were hitting. Then they put the flag back and they went to the table, and he hit and the other hit. Then they went on, and I went along the fence. Lester came away from the flower tree and we went along the fence and they stopped and we stopped and I looked through the fence while Lester was hunting in the grass. Here, Caddy. He hit. They went away across the pasture. I held to the fence and watched them going away. Listen at you, now. Lester said. Ain't you something, 33 years old, going on that way? After I done went all the way to town to buy you that cake. Hush up that moaning. Ain't you going to help me find that quarter so I can go to the show tonight? They were hitting little, across the pasture. I went back along the fence to where the flag was. It flapped on the bright grass and the trees. Come on. Lester said. We done looked there. They ain't no more coming right now. Let's go down to the branch and find that quarter before them niggers finds it. It was red, flapping on the pasture. Then there was a bird slanting and tilting on it. Lester threw. The flag flapped on the bright grass and the trees. I held to the fence. Shut up that moaning, Lester said. I can't make them come if they ain't coming, can I? If you don't hush up, Mammy ain't going to have no birthday for you. If you don't hush, you know what I going to do. I going to eat that cake all up. Eat them candles, too. Eat all them 33 candles. Come on, let's go down to the branch. I got to find my quarter. Maybe we can find one of they balls. Here they is. Way over yonder. See? He came to the fence and pointed his arm. See them? They ain't coming back here no more. Come on. We went along the fence and came to the garden fence, where our shadows were. My shadow was higher than Lester's on the fence. We came to the broken place and went through it. Wait a minute. Lester said. You snagged on that nail again. Can't you never crawl through here without snagging on that nail? Caddy uncaught me and we crawled through. Uncle Maury said to not let anybody see us, so we better stoop over, Caddy said. Stoop over, Benjy. Like this, see. We stooped over and crossed the garden, where the flowers rasped and rattled against us. The ground was hard. We climbed the fence, where the pigs were grunting and snuffing. I expect they're sorry because one of them got killed today, Caddy said. The ground was hard, churned and knotted. Keep your hands in your pockets, Caddy said. Or they'll get froze. You don't want your hands froze on Christmas, do you? It's too cold out there. Versh said. You don't want to go outdoors. What is it now? Mother said. He want to go outdoors. Versh said. Let him go. Uncle Maury said. It's too cold. Mother said. He'd better stay in. Benjamin. Stop that, now. It won't hurt him. Uncle Maury said. You, Benjamin. Mother said. If you don't be good, you'll have to go to the kitchen. Mammy say keep him out the kitchen today. Versh said. She say she got all that cooking to get done. Let him go, Caroline. Uncle Maury said. You'll worry yourself sick over him. I know it. Mother said. It's a judgment on me. I sometimes wonder. I know. Uncle Maury said. You must keep your strength up. I'll make you a toddy. It just upsets me that much more. Mother said. Don't you know it does? You'll feel better. Uncle Maury said. Wrap him up good, boy, and take him out for a while. Uncle Maury went away. Versh went away. Please hush. Mother said. We're trying to get you out as fast as we can. I don't want you to get sick. Versh put my overshoes and overcoat on and we took my cap and went out. Uncle Maury was putting the bottle away in the sideboard in the dining room. Keep him out about half an hour, boy. Uncle Maury said. Keep him in the yard, now. Yes, sir. Versh said. We don't never let him get off the place. We went outdoors. The sun was cold and bright. Where you heading for? Versh said. You don't think you going to town, does you? We went through the rattling leaves. The gate was cold. You better keep them hands in your pockets. Versh said. You get them froze onto that gate, then what you do? Why'n't you wait for them in the house? He put my hands into my pockets. I could hear him rattling in the leaves. I could smell the cold. The gate was cold. Here's some hickey nuts. Hooey. Get up that tree. Look here at this squirrel, Benjy. I couldn't feel the gate at all, but I could smell the bright cold. You better put them hands back in your pockets. Caddy was walking. Then she was running, her book satchel swinging and jouncing behind her. Hello, Benjy. Caddy said. She opened the gate and came in and stooped down. Caddy smelled like leaves. Did you come to meet me, she said. Did you come to meet Caddy? What did you let him get his hands so cold for, Versh? I told him to keep them in his pockets. Versh said. Holding on to that hun gate. Did you come to meet Caddy, she said, rubbing my hands. What is it? What are you trying to tell Caddy? Caddy smelled like trees and like when she says we were asleep. What are you moaning about, Lester said. You can watch them again when we get to the branch. Here's you a Jimson weed. He gave me the flower. We went through the fence, into the lot. What is it? Caddy said. What are you trying to tell Caddy? Did they send him out, Versh? Couldn't keep him in. Versh said. He kept on until they let him go and he come right straight down here, looking through the gate. What is it? Caddy said. Did you think it would be Christmas when I came home from school? Is that what you thought? Christmas is the day after tomorrow. Santa Claus, Benjy. Santa Claus. Come on, let's run to the house and get warm. She took my hand and we ran through the bright rustling leaves. We ran up the steps and out of the bright cold, into the dark cold. Uncle Maury was putting the bottle back in the sideboard. He called Caddy. Caddy said. Take him into the fire, Versh. Go with Versh, she said. I'll come in a minute. We went to the fire. Mother said. Is he cold, Versh? No. Versh said. Take his overcoat and overshoes off. Mother said. How many times do I have to tell you not to bring him into the house with his overshoes on? Yes, Versh said. Hold still, now. He took my overshoes off and unbuttoned my coat. Caddy said. Wait, Versh. Can't he go out again, Mother? I want him to go with me. You'd better leave him here. Uncle Maury said. He's been out enough today. I think you'd both better stay in. Mother said. It's getting colder, Dilsey says. Oh, Mother. Caddy said. Nonsense. Uncle Maury said. She's been in school all day. She needs the fresh air. Run along, Candace. Let him go, Mother. Caddy said. Please. You know he'll cry. Then why did you mention it before him? Mother said. Why did you come in here? To give him some excuse to worry me again. You've been out enough today. I think you'd better sit down here and play with him. Let them go, Caroline. Uncle Maury said. A little cold won't hurt them. Remember, you've got to keep your strength up. I know. Mother said. Nobody knows how I dread Christmas. Nobody knows. I am not one of those women who can stand things. I wish for Jason's blanket. She didn't take off her bathrobe. Now, she said, here I am. Dilsey came with a blanket and spread it over her and tucked it around her. He be gone in a minute. Dilsey said. I leave the light on in your room. All right. Caddy said. She snuggled her head beside mine on the pillow. Good night, Dilsey. Good night, honey. Dilsey said. The room went black. Caddy smelled like trees. We looked up into the tree where she was. What's she seeing, Versh? Phroney whispered. Shh, Caddy said in the tree. Dilsey said. You come on here. She came around the corner of the house. Why'n't you all go on upstairs, like your pa said, 'stead of slipping out behind my back? Where's Caddy and Quentin? I told her not to climb up that tree. Jason said. I'm going to tell on her. Who and what tree? Dilsey said. She came and looked up into the tree. Caddy. Dilsey said. The branches began to shake again. You, Satan. Dilsey said. Come down from there. Hush. Caddy said, don't you know Father said to be quiet? Her legs came in sight and Dilsey reached up and lifted her out of the tree. Ain't you got any better sense than to let them come around here? Dilsey said. I couldn't do nothing with her. Versh said. What you all doing here? Dilsey said. Who told you to come up to the house? She did. Phroney said. She told us to come. Who told you got to do what she say? Dilsey said. Get on home, now. Phroney and TP went on. We couldn't see them when they were still going away. Out here in the middle of the night. Dilsey said. She took me up and we went to the kitchen. Slipping out behind my back. Dilsey said. When you knowed it's past your bedtime. Shh, Dilsey. Caddy said. Don't talk so loud. We've got to be quiet. You hush your mouth and get quiet, then. Dilsey said. Where's Quentin? Quentin's mad because he had to mind me tonight. Caddy said. He's still got TP's bottle of lightning bugs. I reckon TP can get along without it. Dilsey said. You go and find Quentin, Versh. Rosca say he's seen him going towards the barn. Versh went on. We couldn't see him. They're not doing anything in there. Caddy said. Just sitting in chairs and looking. They don't need no help from you all to do that. Dilsey said. We went around the kitchen. Where you want to go now, Lester said. You going back to watch them knocking ball again? We done looked for it over there. Here. Wait a minute. You wait right here while I go back and get that ball. I done thought of something. The kitchen was dark. The trees were black on the sky. Dan came waddling out from under the steps and chewed my ankle. I went around the kitchen, where the moon was. Dan came scuffling along, into the moon. Benjy. TP said in the house. The flower tree by the parlor window wasn't dark, but the thick trees were. The grass was buzzing in the moonlight where my shadow walked on the grass. You, Benjy. TP said in the house. Where you hiding? You slipping off. I knows it. Lester came back. Wait, he said. Here. Don't go over there. Miss Quentin and her beau in the swing yonder. You come on this way. Come back here, Benjy. It was dark under the trees. Dan wouldn't come. He stayed in the moonlight. Then I could see the swing and I began to cry. Come away from there, Benjy, Lester said. You know Miss Quentin going to get mad. It was 2 now, and then 1 in the swing. Caddy came fast, white in the darkness. Benjy, she said. How did you slip out? Where's Versh? She put her arms around me and I hushed and held to her dress and tried to pull her away. Why, Benjy, she said. What is it? TP, she called. The one in the swing got up and came, and I cried and pulled Caddy's dress. Benjy. Caddy said. It's just Charlie. Don't you know Charlie? Where's his nigger? Charlie said. What do they let him run around loose for? Hush, Benjy. Caddy said. Go away, Charlie. He doesn't like you. Charlie went away and I hushed. I pulled at Caddy's dress. Why, Benjy. Caddy said. Aren't you going to let me stay here and talk to Charlie a while? Call that nigger. Charlie said. He came back. I cried louder and pulled at Caddy's dress. Go away, Charlie. Caddy said. Charlie came and put his hands on Caddy and I cried more. I cried loud. No, no. Caddy said. No. No. He can't talk. Charlie said. Caddy. Are you crazy? Caddy said. She began to breathe fast. He can see. Don't. Don't. Caddy fought. They both breathed fast. Please. Please. Caddy whispered. Send him away. Charlie said. I will. Caddy said. Let me go. Will you send him away? Charlie said. Yes. Caddy said. Let me go. Charlie went away. Hush. Caddy said. He's gone. I hushed. I could hear her and feel her chest going. I'll have to take him to the house, she said. She took my hand. I'm coming, she whispered. Wait. Charlie said. Call the nigger. No, Caddy said. I'll come back. Come on, Benjy. Caddy. Charlie whispered, loud. We went on. You better come back. Are you coming back? Caddy and I were running. Caddy. Charlie said. We ran out into the moonlight, toward the kitchen. Caddy. Charlie said. Caddy and I ran. We ran up the kitchen steps, onto the porch, and Caddy knelt down in the dark and held me. I could hear her and feel her chest. I want, she said. I want any more, ever. Benjy. Benjy. Then she was crying, and I cried, and we held each other. Hush, she said. Hush. I won't any more. So I hushed and Caddy got up and we went into the kitchen and turned the light on and Caddy took the kitchen soap and washed her mouth at the sink, hard. Caddy smelled like trees. I kept a telling you to stay away from there, Lester said. They sat up in the swing, quick. Quentin had her hands on her hair. He had a red tie. You old crazy loon, Quentin said. I'm going to tell Dilsey about the way you let him follow everywhere I go. I'm going to make her whip you good. I couldn't stop him. Lester said. Come on here, Benjy. Yes, you could. Quentin said. You didn't try. You were both snooping around after me. Did grandmother send you all out here to spy on me? She jumped out of the swing. If you don't take him right away this minute and keep him away, I'm going to make Jason whip you. I can't do nothing with him. Lester said. You try it if you think you can. Shut your mouth. Quentin said. Are you going to get him away? Let him stay, he said. He had a red tie. The sun was red on it. Look here, Jack. He struck a match and put it in his mouth. Then he took the match out of his mouth. It was still burning. Want to try it, he said. I went over there. Open your mouth, he said. I opened my mouth. Quentin hit the match with her hand and it went away. God damn you. Quentin said. Do you want to get him started? Don't you know he'll beller all day? I'm going to tell Diley on you. She went away running. Here, kid, he said. Hey. Come on back. I ain't going to fool. Bald spot, like a drained marsh in December. I saw the hardware store from across the street. I didn't know you bought flat irons by the pound. The clerk said, these weigh 10 pounds. Only they were bigger than I thought. So I got 2 6-pound little ones, because they would look like a pair of shoes wrapped up. They felt heavy enough together, but I thought again how Father had said about the reductio absurdum of human experience, thinking how the only opportunity one seemed to have for the application of Harvard. Maybe by next year, thinking maybe it takes 2 years in school to learn to do that properly. But they felt heavy enough in the air. A streetcar came. I got on. I didn't see the placard on the front. It was full, mostly prosperous-looking people reading newspapers. The only vacant seat was beside a nigger. He wore a derby and shined shoes and he was holding a dead cigar stub. I used to think that a southerner had to be always conscious of niggers. I thought that northerners would expect him to. When I first came east I kept thinking you've got to remember to think of them as colored people, not niggers, and if it hadn't happened that I wasn't thrown with many of them, I'd have wasted a lot of time and trouble before I learned that the best way to take all people, black or white, is to take them for what they think they are, then leave them alone. That was when I realized that a nigger is not a person so much as a form of behavior, a sort of obverse reflection of the white people he lives among. But I thought at first that I ought to miss having a lot of them around me because I thought that northerners thought I did, but I didn't know that I really had missed Roscus and Diley and them until that morning in Virginia. The train was stopped when I waked and I raised the shade and looked out. The car was blocking a road crossing, where 2 white fences came down a hill and then sprayed outward and downward like part of the skeleton of a horn, and there was a nigger on a mule in the middle of the stiff ruts, waiting for the train to move. How long he had been there I didn't know, but he sat straddle of the mule, his head wrapped in a piece of blanket, as if they had been built there with the fence and the road, or with the hill, carved out of the hill itself, like a sign put there saying you are home again. He didn't have a saddle and his feet dangled almost to the ground. The mule looked like a rabbit. I raised the window. Hey, uncle, I said, is this the way? Sue? He looked at me, then he loosened the blanket and lifted it away from his ear. Christmas gift. I said. Show comin', boss. You done caught me, ain't you? I'll let you off this time. I dragged my pants out of the little hammock and got a quarter out. But look out next time. I'll be coming back through here 2 days after New Year, and look out then. I threw the quarter out the window. Buy yourself some Santa Claus. Yes, Sue, he said. He got down and picked up the quarter and rubbed it on his leg. Thankee, young marster. Thankee. Then the train began to move. I leaned out the window, into the cold air, looking back. He stood there beside the gaunt rabbit of a mule, the 2 of them shabby and motionless and unimpatient. The train swung around the curve, the engine puffing with short, heavy blasts, and they passed smoothly from sight that way, with that quality about them of shabby and timeless patience, of static serenity, that blending of childlike and ready incompetence and paradoxical reliability that tends and protects them at loves out of all reason and robs them steadily and evades responsibility and obligations by means too barefaced to be called subterfuge even and is taken in theft or evasion with. Only that frank and spontaneous admiration for the victor which a gentleman feels for anyone who beats him in a fair contest, and withal a fond and unflagging tolerance for white folks' vagaries like that of a grandparent for unpredictable and troublesome children, which I had forgotten. And all that day, while the train wound through rushing gaps and along ledges where movement was only a laboring sound of the exhaust and groaning wheels and the eternal mountains stood fading into the thick sky, I thought of home, of the bleak station and the mud and the niggers and country folks thronging slowly about the square, with toy monkeys and wagons and candy in sacks and Roman candles sticking out, and my insides would move like they used to do in school when the bell rang. I wouldn't begin counting until the clock struck 3. Then I would begin, counting to 60 and folding down one finger and thinking of the other 14 fingers waiting to be folded down, or 13 or 12 or 8 or 7, until all of a sudden I'd realize silence and the unwinking minds, and I'd say, "Ma'am? Your name is Quentin, isn't it?" Miss Laura said. Then more silence and the cruel unwinking minds and hands jerking into the silence. "Tell Quentin who discovered the Mississippi River, Henry De Soto." Then the minds would go away, and after a while I'd be afraid I had gotten behind and I'd count fast and fold down another finger, then I'd be afraid I was going too fast and I'd slow up, then I'd get afraid and count fast again. So I never could come out even with the bell, and the released surging of feet moving already, feeling earth in the scuffed floor, and the day like a pane of glass struck a light, sharp blow, and my insides would move, sitting still. Moving sitting still. 1 minute she was standing in the door. Benjy. Bellowing. Benjamin the child of mine old age bellowing. "Caddy! Caddy! I'm going to run away." He began to cry. She went and touched him. "Hush. I'm not going to." "Hush." He hushed. "Diley. He smell what you tell him when he want to. Don't have to listen nor talk. Can he smell that new name they give him? Can he smell bad luck? What he want to worry about luck for? Luck can't do him no hurt. What they change his name for then if ain't trying to help his luck?" The streetcar stopped, started, stopped again. Below the window I watched the crowns of people's heads passing beneath new straw hats not yet unbleached. There were women in the car now, with market baskets, and men in work clothes were beginning to outnumber the shined shoes and collars. The nigger touched my knee. "Pardon me," he said. I swung my legs out and let him pass. We were going beside a blank wall, the sound clattering back into the car, at the women with market baskets on their knees and a man in a stained hat with a pipe stuck in the band. I could smell water, and in a break in the wall I saw a glint of water and 2 masts, and a gull motionless in midair, like on an invisible wire between the masts, and I raised my hand and through my coat touched the letters I had written. When the car stopped I got off. The bridge was open to let a schooner through. She was in tow, the tug nudging along under her quarter, trailing smoke, but the ship herself was like she was moving without visible means. A man naked to the waist was coiling down a line on the FOCS head. His body was burned the color of leaf tobacco. Another man in a straw hat without any crown was at the wheel. The ship went through the bridge, moving under bare poles like a ghost in broad day, with 3 gulls hovering above the stern like toys on invisible wires. When it closed I crossed to the other side and leaned on the rail above the boathouses. The float was empty and the doors were closed. The crew just pulled in the late afternoon now, resting up before. The shadow of the bridge, the tiers of railing, my shadow leaning flat upon the water, so easily had I tricked it that would not quit me. At least 50 feet it was, and if I only had something to blot it into the water, holding it until it was drowned, the shadow of the package like 2 shoes wrapped up lying on the water. Niggers say a drowned man's shadow was watching for him in the water all the time. It twinkled and glinted, like breathing, the float slow like breathing too, and debris half submerged, heeling out to the sea and the caverns and the grottos of the sea. The displacement of water is equal to the something of something. Reducto absurdum of all human experience, and 2 6-pound flatirons weigh more than 1 tailor's goose. What a sinful waste, Diley would say. Benjy knew it when Damity died. He cried. He smell hit. He smell hit. The tug came back downstream, the water shearing in long rolling cylinders, rocking the float at last with the echo of passage, the float lurching onto the rolling cylinder with a plopping sound and a long jarring noise as the door rolled back and 2 men emerged, carrying a shell. They set it in the water and a moment later Bland came out, with the sculls. He wore flannels, a grey jacket and a stiff straw hat. Either he or his mother had read somewhere that Oxford students pulled in flannels and stiff hats, so early one March they bought Gerald a 1-pair shell and in his flannels and stiff hat he went on the river. The folks at the boathouses threatened to call a policeman, but he went anyway. His mother came down in a hired auto, in a fur suit like an Arctic explorer's, and saw him off in a 25-mile wind and a steady drove of ice floes like dirty sheep. Ever since then I have believed that God is not only a gentleman and a sport, he is a Kentuckian too. When he sailed away she made a detour and came down to the river again and drove along parallel with him, the car in low gear. They said you couldn't have told they'd ever seen one another before, like a king and queen, not even looking at one another. Just tree, and laid the pole down and climbed into the fork of the tree and sat there, his back to the road and the dappled sun motionless at last upon his white shirt. Else have I thought about I can't even cry. I died last year. I told you I had, but I didn't know then what I meant. I didn't know what I was saying. Some days in late August at home are like this, the air thin and eager like this, with something in it sad and nostalgic and familiar. Man, the sum of his climatic experiences, father said. Man, the sum of what have you? A problem in impure properties carried tediously to an unvarying nil, stalemate of dust and desire. But now I know I'm dead, I tell you. Then why must you listen? We can go away, you and Benjy and me, where nobody knows us, where the buggy was drawn by a white horse, his feet clopping in the thin dust, spidery wheels chattering thin and dry, moving uphill beneath a rippling shawl of leaves. Elm. No, Elm. Elm. On what? On your school money, the money they sold the pasture for so you could go to Harvard. Don't you see you've got to finish now? If you don't finish he'll have nothing. Sold the pasture. His white shirt was motionless in the fork, in the flickering shade. The wheels were spidery. Beneath the sag of the buggy the hooves neatly rapid like the motions of a lady doing embroidery, diminishing without progress like a figure on a treadmill being drawn rapidly off stage. The street turned again. I could see the white cupola, the round stupid assertion of the clock. Sold the pasture. Father will be dead in a year, they say, if he doesn't stop drinking, and he won't stop. He can't stop since last summer, and then they'll send Benjy to Jackson. I can't cry. I can't even cry. 1 minute she was standing in the door, the next minute he was pulling at her dress and bellowing. His voice hammered back and forth between the walls and waves, and she shrinking against the wall, getting smaller and smaller with her white face, her eyes like thumbs dug into it, until he pushed her out of the room. His voice hammering back and forth as though its own momentum would not let it stop, as though there were no place for it in silence, bellowing. When you opened the door a bell tinkled, but just once, high and clear and small in the neat obscurity above the door, as though it were gauged and tempered to make that single clear small sound so as not to wear the bell out nor to require the expenditure of too much silence in restoring it. When the door opened upon the recent warm scent of baking, a little dirty child with eyes like a toy bear's and 2 patent leather pigtails. Hello, sister. Her face was like a cup of milk dashed with coffee in the sweet warm emptiness. Anybody here? But she merely watched me until a door opened and the lady came. Above the counter were the ranks of crisp shapes behind the glass, her neat gray face, her hair tight and sparse from her neat gray skull, spectacles and neat gray rims, writing approaching like something on a wire, like a cash box in a store. She looked like a librarian. Something among dusty shelves of ordered certitudes long divorced from reality, desiccating peacefully, as if a breath of that air which sees injustice done. 2 of these, please, ma'am. From under the counter she produced a square cut from a newspaper and laid it on the counter and lifted the 2 buns out. The little girl watched them with still and unwinking eyes, like 2 currants floating motionless in a cup of weak coffee, land of the kike home of the wop. Watching the bread, the neat gray hands, a broad gold band on the left forefinger, knuckled there by a blue knuckle. Do you do your own baking, ma'am? Sir, she said. Like that. Sir? Like on the stage. Sir? 5 cents. Was there anything else? No, ma'am. Not for me. This lady wants something. She was not tall enough to see over the case, so she went to the end of the counter and looked at the little girl. Did you bring her in here? No, ma'am. She was here when I came. You little wretch, she said. She came out around the counter, but she didn't touch the little girl. Have you got anything in your pockets? She hasn't got any pockets, I said. She wasn't doing anything. She was just standing here, waiting for you. Why didn't the bell ring, then? She glared at me. She just needed a bunch of switches, a blackboard behind her 2x2 E5. She'll hide it under her dress and a body'd never know it. You, child. How'd you get in here? The little girl said nothing. She looked at the woman, then she gave me a flying black glance and looked at the woman again. Them foreigners, the woman said. How'd she get in without the bell ringing? She came in when I opened the door, I said. It rang once for both of us. She couldn't reach anything from here, anyway. Besides, I don't think she would. Would you, sister? The little girl looked at me, secretive, contemplative. What do you want? Bread? She extended her fist. It uncurled upon a nickel, moist and dirty, moist dirt ridged into her flesh. The coin was damp and warm. I could smell it, faintly metallic. Have you got a 5-cent loaf, please, ma'am? From beneath the counter she produced a square cut from a newspaper sheet and laid it on the counter and wrapped a loaf into it. I laid the coin and another one on the counter. And another one of those buns, please, ma'am. She took another bun from the case. Give me that parcel, she said. I gave it to her and she unwrapped it and put the third bun in and wrapped it and took up the coins and found 2 coppers in her apron and gave them to me. I handed them to the little girl. Her fingers closed about them, damp and hot, like worms. You going to give her that bun? The woman said. Yes, I said. I expect your cooking smells as good to her as it does to me. I took up the 2 packages and gave the bread to the little girl, the woman all iron gray behind the counter, watching us with cold certitude. You wait a minute, she said. She went to the rear. The door opened again and closed. The little girl watched me, holding the bread against her dirty dress. What's your name? I said. She quit looking at me, but she was still motionless. She didn't even seem to breathe. The woman returned. She had a funny-looking thing in her hand. She carried it sort of like it might have been a dead pet rat. Here, she said. The child looked at her. Take it, the woman said, jabbing it at the little girl. It just looks peculiar. I calculate you won't know the difference when you eat it. Here. I can't stand here all day. The child took it, still watching her. The woman rubbed her hands on her apron. I got to have that bell fixed, she said. She went to the door and jerked it open. The little bell tinkled once, faint and clear and invisible. We moved toward the door and the woman's peering back. Thank you for the cake, I said. Them foreigners, she said, staring up into the obscurity where the bell tinkled. Take my advice and stay clear of them, young man. Yes, I said. Come on, sister. We went out. Thank you, ma'am. She swung the door to, then jerked it open again, making the bell give forth its single small note. Foreigners, she said, peering up at the bell. We went on. Well, I said, how about some ice cream? She was eating the gnarled cake. Do you like ice cream? She gave me a black still look, chewing. Come on. We came to the drugstore and had some ice cream. She wouldn't put the loaf down. Why not put it down so you can eat better? I said, offering to take it. But she held to it, chewing the ice cream like it was taffy. The bitten cake lay on the table. She ate the ice cream steadily, then she fell to on the cake again, looking about at the showcases. I finished mine and we went out. Which way do you live? I said. A buggy, the one with the white horse it was. Only Doc Peabody is fat. 300 pounds. You ride with him on the uphill side, holding on. Children. Walking easier than holding uphill. Seen the doctor yet? Have you seen Caddy? I don't have to. I can't ask now. Afterward it will be all right. It won't matter. Because women so delicate, so mysterious, father said. Delicate equilibrium of periodical filth between 2 moons balanced. Moons, he said, full and yellow as harvest moons, her hips, thighs. Outside of them always, but yellow. Feet soles with walking like. Then know that some man that all those mysterious and imperious concealed. With all that inside of them shapes an outward suavity waiting for a touch to. Liquid putrefaction like drowned things floating like pale rubber flabbily filled getting the odor of honeysuckle all mixed up. You'd better take your bread on home, hadn't you? She looked at me. She chewed quietly and steadily. At regular intervals a small distension passed smoothly down her throat. I opened my package and gave her one of the buns. Goodbye, I said. I went on. Then I looked back. She was behind me. Shreve said. Want some fresh water? This is all right, I said. I dipped the cloth again and held it to my eye. Wish I had something to clean my vest. Spode was still watching me. Say, he said, what did you hit him for? What was it he said? I don't know. I don't know why I did. The first I knew was when you jumped up all of a sudden and said, did you ever have a sister? Did you? And when he said no, you hit him. I noticed you kept on looking at him, but you didn't seem to be paying any attention to what anybody was saying until you jumped up and asked him if he had any sisters. Ah, he was blowing off as usual, Shreve said, about his women. You know, like he does, before girls, so they don't know exactly what he's saying. All his damn innuendo and lying and a lot of stuff that don't make sense even. Telling us about some wench that he made a date with to meet at a dance hall in Atlantic City and stood her up and went to the hotel and went to bed, and how he lay there being sorry for her waiting on the pier for him, without him there to give her what she wanted. Talking about the body's beauty and the sorry ends thereof and how tough women have it, without anything else they can do except lie on their backs. Lita lurking in the bushes, whimpering and moaning for the swan. See? The son of a bitch. I'd hit him myself. Only I'd grabbed up her damn hamper of wine and done it if it had been me. Oh, Spode said, the champion of dames. Bud, you excite not only admiration, but horror. He looked at me, cold and quizzical. Good God, he said. I'm sorry I hit him, I said. Do I look too bad to go back and get it over with? Apologies, hell, Shreve said, let them go to hell. We're going to town. He ought to go back so they'll know he fights like a gentleman, Spode said. Gets licked like one, I mean. Like this? Shreve said, with his clothes all over blood. Why, all right, Spode said, you know best. He can't go around in his undershirt, Shreve said, he's not a senior yet. Come on, let's go to town. You needn't come, I said. You go on back to the picnic. Hell with them, Shreve said. Come on here. What'll I tell them? Spode said. Tell them you and Quentin had a fight too? Tell them nothing, Shreve said. Tell her option expired at sunset. Come on, Quentin. I'll ask that woman where the nearest interurban? No, I said, I'm not going back to town. Shreve stopped, looking at me. Turning, his glasses looked like small yellow moons. What are you going to do? I'm not going back to town yet. You go on back to the picnic. Tell them I wouldn't come back because my clothes were spoiled. Look here, he said, what are you up to? Nothing. I'm all right. You and Spode go on back. I'll see you tomorrow. I went on across the yard, toward the road. Do you know where the station is? Shreve said. I'll find it. I'll see you all tomorrow. Tell Mrs. Bland I'm sorry I spoiled her party. They stood watching me. I went around the house. A rock path went down to the road. Roses grew on both sides of the path. I went through the gate, onto the road. It dropped downhill, toward the woods, and I could make out the auto beside the road. I went up the hill. The light increased as I mounted, and before I reached the top I heard a car. It sounded far away across the twilight and I stopped and listened to it. I couldn't make out the auto any longer, but Shreve was standing in the road before the house, looking up the hill. Behind him the yellow light lay like a wash of paint on the roof of the house. I lifted my hand and went on over the hill, listening to the car. Then the house was gone and I stopped in the green and yellow light and heard the car growing louder and louder, until just as it began to die away it ceased altogether. I waited until I heard it start again. Then I went on. As I descended the light dwindled slowly, yet at the same time without altering its quality, as if I and not light were changing, decreasing, though even when the road ran into trees you could have read a newspaper. Pretty soon I came to a lane. I turned into it. It was closer and darker than the road, but when it came out at the trolley stop, another wooden marquee, the light was still unchanged. After the lane it seemed brighter, as though I had walked through night in the lane and come out into morning again. Pretty soon the car came. I got on it, they turning to look at my eye, and found a seat on the left side. The lights were on in the car, so while we ran between trees I couldn't see anything except my own face and a woman across the aisle with a hat sitting right on top of her head, with a broken feather in it, but when we ran out of the trees I could see the twilight again, that quality of light as if time really had stopped for a while, with the sun hanging just under the horizon, and then we passed the marquee where the old man had been eating out of the sack, and the road going on under the twilight, into twilight and the sense of water peaceful and swift beyond. Then the car went on, the draft building steadily up in the open door until it was drawing steadily through the car with the odor of summer and darkness except honeysuckle. Honeysuckle was the saddest odor of all, I think. I remember lots of them. Wisteria was one. On the rainy days when Mother wasn't feeling quite bad enough to stay away from the windows we used to play under it. When Mother stayed in bed Diley would put old clothes on us and let us go out in the rain because she said rain never hurt young folks. But if Mother was up we always began by playing on the porch until she said we were making too much noise, then we went out and played under the wisteria frame. This was where I saw the river for the last time this morning, about here. I could feel water beyond the twilight, smell. When it bloomed in the spring and it rained the smell was everywhere you didn't notice it so much at other times but when it rained the smell began to come into the house at twilight either it would rain more at twilight or there was something in the light itself but it always smelled strongest then until I would lie in bed thinking when will it stop, when will it stop. The draft in the door smelled of water, a damp steady breath. Sometimes I could put myself to sleep saying that over and over until after the honeysuckle got all mixed up in it the whole thing came to symbolize night and unrest. I seemed to be lying neither asleep nor awake looking down a long corridor of grey half-light where all stable things had become shadowy paradoxical, all I had done shadows, all I had felt suffered taking visible form antic and perverse mocking without relevance inherent, themselves with the denial of the significance they should have. Affirmed thinking I was not who was not who. I could smell the curves of the river beyond the dusk and I saw the last lights supine and tranquil upon tide flats like pieces of broken mirror, then beyond them lights began in the pale clear air, trembling a little like butterflies hovering a long way off. Benjamin the child of. How he used to sit before that mirror. Refuge unfailing in which conflict tempered silenced reconciled. Benjamin the child of mine old age held hostage into Egypt. Oh Benjamin. Dilsey said it was because mother was too proud for him. They come into white people's lives like that in sudden sharp black trickles that isolate white facts for an instant in unarguable truth like under a microscope, the rest of the time just voices that laugh when you see nothing to laugh at, tears when no reason for tears. They will bet on the odd or even number of mourners at a funeral. A brothel full of them in Memphis went into a religious trance, ran naked into the street. It took 3 policemen to subdue one of them. Yes, Jesus, oh good man, Jesus, oh that good man. The car stopped. I got out, with them looking at my eye. When the trolley came it was full. I stopped on the back platform. Seats up front, the conductor said. I looked into the car. There were no seats on the left side. I'm not going far, I said. I'll just stand here. We crossed the river. The bridge, that is, arching slow and high into space, between silence and nothingness where lights, yellow and red and green, trembled in the clear air, repeating themselves. Better go up front and get a seat, the conductor said. I get off pretty soon, I said. A couple of blocks. I got off before we reached the post office. They'd all be sitting around somewhere by now though, and then I was hearing my watch and I began to listen for the chimes and I touched Shreve's letter through my coat, the bitten shadows of the elms flowing upon my hand. And then as I turned into the quad the chimes did begin and I went on while the notes came up like ripples on a pool and passed me and went on, saying quarter to what? All right. Quarter to what? Our windows were dark. The entrance was empty. I walked close to the left wall when I entered, but it was empty, just the stairs curving up into shadows, echoes of feet in the sad generations like light dust upon the shadows, my feet waking them like dust, lightly to settle again. I could see the letter before I turned the light on, propped against a book on the table so I would see it. Calling him my husband. And then Spode said they were going somewhere, would not of the rain. Goodbye. I made to go away. Jason, she says. I stopped. Yes? I says. Hurry up. I'm getting wet. All right, she says. Here. There wasn't anybody in sight. I went back and took the money. She still held to it. You'll do it, she says, looking at me from under the veil, you promise? Let go, I says, you want somebody to come along and see us? She let go. I put the money in my pocket. You'll do it, Jason, she says. I wouldn't ask you, if there was any other way. You're damn right there's no other way, I says. Sure I'll do it. I said I would, didn't I? Only you'll have to do just like I say, now. Yes, she says, I will. So I told her where to be, and went to the livery stable. I hurried and got there just as they were unhitching the hack. I asked if they had paid for it yet and he said no and I said Mrs. Compson forgot something and wanted it again, so they let me take it. Mink was driving. I bought him a cigar, so we drove around until it begun to get dark on the back streets where they wouldn't see him. Then Mink said he'd have to take the team on back and so I said I'd buy him another cigar and so we drove into the lane and I went across the yard to the house. I stopped in the hall until I could hear Mother and Uncle Maury upstairs, then I went on back to the kitchen. She and Ben were there with Diley. I said Mother wanted her and I took her into the house. I found Uncle Maury's raincoat and put it around her and picked her up and went back to the lane and got in the hack. I told Mink to drive to the depot. He was afraid to pass the stable, so we had to go the back way and I saw her standing on the corner under the light and I told Mink to drive close to the walk and when I said go on, to give the team a bat. Then I took the raincoat off of her and held her to the window and Caddy saw her and sort of jumped forward. Hit him, Mink. I says, and Mink gave them a cut and we went past her like a fire engine. Now get on that train like you promised, I says. I could see her running after us through the back window. Hit him again, I says, let's get on home. When we turned the corner she was still running. And so I counted the money again that night and put it away, and I didn't feel so bad. I says I reckon that'll show you. I reckon you'll know now that you can't beat me out of a job and get away with it. It never occurred to me she wouldn't keep her promise and take that train. But I didn't know much about them then, I didn't have any more sense than to believe what they said, because the next morning damn if she didn't walk right into the store, only she had sense enough to wear the veil and not speak to anybody. It was Saturday morning, because I was at the store, and she came right on back to the desk where I was, walking fast. Liar, she says, liar. Are you crazy? I says. What do you mean? Coming in here like this? She started in, but I shut her off. I says, you already cost me one job, do you want me to lose this one too? If you've got anything to say to me, I'll meet you somewhere after dark. What have you got to say to me? I says, didn't I do everything I said? I said see her a minute, didn't I? Well, didn't you? She just stood there looking at me, shaking like an ague fit, her hands clenched and kind of jerking. I did just what I said I would, I says, you're the one that lied. You promised to take that train. Didn't you promise? If you think you can get that money back, just try it, I says. If it had been $1,000, you'd still owe me after the risk I took. And if I see or hear you're still in town after number 17 runs, I says, I'll tell Mother and Uncle Maury. Then hold your breath until you see her again. She just stood there, looking at me, twisting her hands together. Damn you, she says, damn you. Sure, I says, that's all right too. Mind what I say, now. After number 17, and I tell them. After she was gone I felt better. I says I reckon you'll think twice before you deprive me of a job that was promised me. I was a kid then. I believed folks when they said they'd do things. I've learned better since. Besides, like I say I guess I don't need any man's help to get along, I can stand on my own feet like I always have. Then all of a sudden I thought of Diley and Uncle Maury. I thought how she'd get around Diley and that Uncle Maury would do anything for $10. And there I was, couldn't even get away from the store to protect my own mother. Like she says, if one of you had to be taken, thank God it was you left me, I can depend on you, and I says well I don't reckon I'll ever get far enough from the store to get out of your reach. Somebody's got to hold on to what little we have left, I reckon. So as soon as I got home I fixed Diley. I told Diley she had leprosy and I got the Bible and read where a man's flesh rotted off, and I told her that if she ever looked at her or Ben or Quentin they'd catch it too. So I thought I had everything all fixed until that day when I came home and found Ben bellowing. Raising hell, and nobody could quiet him. Mother said, well, get him the slipper then. Diley made out she didn't hear. Mother said it again and I says I'd go, I couldn't stand that damn noise. Like I say I can stand lots of things, I don't expect much from them, but if I have to work all day long in a damn store, damn if I don't think I deserve a little peace and quiet to eat dinner in. So I says I'd go and Diley says quick, Jason. Well, like a flash I knew what was up, but just to make sure I went and got the slipper and brought it back, and just like I thought, when he saw it you'd thought we were killing him. So I made Diley own up, then I told Mother. We had to take her up to bed then, and after things got quieted down a little I put the fear of God into Diley. As much as you can into a nigger, that is. That's the trouble with nigger servants, when they've been with you for a long time they get so full of self-importance that they're not worth a damn. Think they run the whole family. I like to know what's to hurt in lettin' dat Pachili see her own baby, Diley says. If Mr. Jason was still here hit you'd be different. Only Mr. Jason's not here, I says. I know you won't pay me any mind, but I reckon you'll do what Mother says. You keep on worrying her like this until you get her into the graveyard too, then you can fill the whole house full of ragtag and bobtail. But what did you want to let that damn idiot see her for? You's a cold man, Jason, if man you is, she says. I thanked a lot I got mo heart dan dat, even ef hit is black. At least I'm man enough to keep that flour barrel full, I says. And if you do that again, you won't be eating out of it either. So the next time I told her that if she tried Diley again, Mother was going to fire Diley and send Ben to Jackson and take Quentin and go away. She looked at me for a while. There wasn't any street light close and I couldn't see her face much. But I could feel her looking at me. When we were little, when she'd get mad and couldn't do anything about it, her upper lip would begin to jump. Every time it jumped it would leave a little more of her teeth showing, and all the time she'd be as still as a post, not a muscle moving except her lip jerking higher and higher up her teeth. But she didn't say anything. She just said, "All right. How much?" Well, if one look through a hack window was worth 100, I says. So after that she behaved pretty well, only one time she asked to see a statement of the bank account. I know they have mother's endorsement on them, she says, but I want to see the bank statement. I want to see myself where those checks go. That's in mother's private business, I says. If you think you have any right to pry into her private affairs, I'll tell her you believe those checks are being misappropriated and you want an audit because you don't trust her. She didn't say anything or move. I could hear her whispering, damn you, oh damn you, oh damn you. Say it out, I says, I don't reckon it's any secret what you and I think of one another. Maybe you want the money back, I says. Listen, Jason, she says, don't lie to me now. About her. I won't ask to see anything. If that isn't enough, I'll send more each month. Just promise that you can do that. Things for her. Be kind to her. Little things that I can't, they won't let. But you won't. You never had a drop of warm blood in you. Listen, she says, if you'll get mother to let me have her back, I'll give you $1,000. You haven't got $1,000, I says, I know you're lying now. Yes, I have. I will have. I can get it. And I know how you'll get it, I says, you'll get it the same way you got her. And when she gets big enough, then I thought she really was going to hit at me, and then I didn't know what she was going to do. She acted for a minute like some kind of a toy that's wound up too tight and about to burst all to pieces. Oh, I'm crazy, she says, I'm insane. I can't take her. Keep her. What am I thinking of? One hell of a time in heaven, without anybody's business to meddle, and only don't you ever let me catch you at it, I says. I close my eyes to it because of your grandmother, but just you let me catch you doing it one time on this place, where my mother lives. These damn little slick-haired squirts, thinking they are raising so much hell, I'll show them something about hell, I says, and you too. I'll make him think that damn red tie is the latch string to hell, if he thinks he can run the woods with my niece. With the sun and all in my eyes and my blood going, so I kept thinking every time my head would go on and burst and get it over with briars and things grabbing at me. Then I came onto the sand ditch where they had been, and I recognized the tree where the car was, and just as I got out of the ditch and started running, I heard the car start. It went off fast, blowing the horn. They kept on blowing it, like it was saying yah, yaha, going out of sight. I got to the road just in time to see it go out of sight. By the time I got up to where my car was, they were clean out of sight, the horn still blowing. Well, I never thought anything about it except I was saying run. Run back to town. Run home and try to convince mother that I never saw you in that car. Try to make her believe that I don't know who he was. Try to make her believe that I didn't miss 10 feet of catching you in that ditch. Try to make her believe you were standing up, too. It kept on saying yaha, getting fainter and fainter. Then it quit, and I could hear a cow lowing up at Russell's barn. And still I never thought. I went up to the door and opened it and raised my foot. I kind of thought then that the car was leaning a little more than the slant of the road would be, but I never found it out until I got in and started off. Well, I just sat there. It was getting on towards sundown, and town was about 5 miles. They never even had guts enough to puncture it, to jab a hole in it. They just let the air out. I just stood there for a while, thinking about that kitchen full of niggers, and not one of them had time to lift a tire onto the rack and screw up a couple of bolts. It was kind of funny because even she couldn't have seen far enough ahead to take the pump out on purpose, unless she thought about it while he was letting out the air maybe. But what it probably was somebody took it out and gave it to Ben to play with for a squirt gun, because they'd take the whole car to pieces if he wanted it, and Dilsey says, ain't nobody touched yo car. What we want to fool with hit fair? And I says you're a nigger. You're lucky, do you know it? I says I'll swap with you any day, because it takes a white man not to have any more sense than to worry about what a little slut of a girl does. I walked up to Russell's. He had a pump. That was just an oversight on their part, I reckon. Only I still couldn't believe she'd have had the nerve to. I kept thinking that. I don't know why it is I can't seem to learn that a woman'll do anything. I kept thinking, let's forget for a while how I feel toward you and how you feel toward me. I just wouldn't do you this way. I wouldn't do you this way no matter what you had done to me. Because like I say, blood is blood and you can't get around it. It's not playing a joke that any 8-year-old boy could have thought of, it's letting your own uncle be laughed at by a man that would wear a red tie. They come into town and call us all a bunch of hicks and think it's too small to hold them. Well, he doesn't know just how right he is. And her too. If that's the way she feels about it, she'd better keep right on going, and a damn good riddance. I stopped and returned Russell's pump and drove on to town. I went to the drugstore and got a Coca-Cola, and then I went to the telegraph office. It had closed at 12.21, 40 points down. 40 times $5. Buy something with that if you can. And she'll say, I've got to have it, I've just got to, and I'll say that's too bad, you'll have to try somebody else. I haven't got any money. I've been too busy to make any. I just looked at him. I'll tell you some news, I says. You'll be astonished to learn that I am interested in the cotton market, I says. That never occurred to you, did it? I did my best to deliver it, he says. I tried the store twice and called up your house, but they didn't know where you were, he says, digging in the drawer. Deliver what? I says. He handed me a telegram. What time did this come? I says. About 3:30, he says. And now it's 10 minutes past 5, I says. I tried to deliver it, he says. I couldn't find you. That's not my fault, is it? I says. I opened it, just to see what kind of a lie they'd tell me this time. They must be in one hell of a shape if they've got to come all the way to Mississippi to steal $10 a month. Sell, it says. The market will be unstable, with a general downward tendency. Do not be alarmed following government report. How much would a message like this cost? I says. He told me. They paid it, he says. Then I owe them that much, I says. I already knew this. Send this collect, I says, taking a blank. Buy, I wrote, market just on point of blowing its head off. Occasional flurries for purpose of hooking a few more country suckers who haven't got into the telegraph office yet. Do not be alarmed. Send that collect, I says. He looked at the message, then he looked at the clock. Market closed an hour ago, he says. Well, I says, that's not my fault either. I didn't invent it, I just bought a little of it while under the impression that the telegraph company would keep me informed as to what it was doing. A report is posted whenever it comes in, he says. Yes, I says, and in Memphis they have it on a blackboard every 10 seconds, I says. I was within 67 miles of there once this afternoon. He looked at the message. You want to send this? He says. I still haven't changed my mind, I says. I wrote the other one out and counted the money. And this one too, if you're sure you can spell BUY. I went back to the store. I could hear the band from down the street. Prohibition's a fine thing. Used to be they'd come in Saturday with just one pair of shoes in the family and him wearing them, and they'd go down to the express office and get his package. Now they all go to the show barefooted, with the merchants in the door like a row of tigers or something in a cage, watching them pass. Earl says. I hope it wasn't anything serious. What? I says. He looked at his watch. Then he went to the door and looked at the courthouse clock. You ought to have a $1 watch, I says. It won't cost you so much to believe it's lying each time. What? He says. Nothing, I says. Hope I haven't inconvenienced you. We were not busy much, he says. They all went to the show. It's all right. If it's not all right, I says, you know what you can do about it. I said it was all right, he says. I heard you, I says. And if it's not all right, you know what you can do about it. Do you want to quit? He says. It's not my business, I says. My wishes don't matter. But don't get the idea that you are protecting me by keeping me. You'd be a good businessman if you'd let yourself, Jason, he says. At least I can tend to my own business and let other people's alone, I says. I don't know why you are trying to make me fire you, he says. You know you could quit any time and there wouldn't be any hard feelings between us. Maybe that's why I don't quit, I says. As long as I tend to my job, that's what you are paying me for. I went on to the back and got a drink of water and went on out to the back door. Job had the cultivators all set up at last. It was quiet there, and pretty soon my head got a little easier. I could hear them singing now, and then the band played again. Well, let them get every quarter and dime in the county, it was no skin off my back. I've done what I could, a man that can live as long as I have and not know when to quit is a fool. Especially as it's no business of mine. If it was my own daughter now it would be different, because she wouldn't have time to, she'd have to work some to feed a few invalids and idiots and niggers. Because how could I have the face to bring anybody there? I've too much respect for anybody to do that. I'm a man, I can stand it, it's my own flesh and blood and I'd like to see the color of the man's eyes that would speak disrespectful of any woman that was my friend. It's these damn good women that do it. I'd like to see the good, church-going woman that's half as square as Lorraine, whore or no whore. Like I say, if I was to get married you'd go up like a balloon and you know it, and she says I want you to be happy to have a family of your own, not to slave your life away for us. But I'll be gone soon and then you can take a wife, but you'll never find a woman who is worthy of you, and I says yes I could. You'd get right up out of your grave, you know you would. I says no thank you, I have all the women I can take care of now. If I married a wife she'd probably turn out to be a hophead or something. That's all we lack in this family, I says. The sun was down beyond the Methodist church now, and the pigeons were flying back and forth around the steeple, and calling his name. Then she saw Diley and she quit calling him and began to call Diley instead. I told you she ain't unlocked dat do yet, Diley said. When she spoke he turned and ran toward her, but his voice was quiet, matter of fact. She carry the key with her, he said. Has she got it now, I mean, or will she have? Diley, Mrs. Compson said on the stairs. Is which? Diley said. Why'n't you let? The key, Jason said, to that room. Does she carry it with her all the time? Mother. Then he saw Mrs. Compson and he went down the stairs and met her. Give me the key, he said. He fell to pawing at the pockets of the rusty black dressing sack case she wore. She resisted. Jason, she said, Jason. Are you and Diley trying to put me to bed again? She said, trying to fend him off. Can't you even let me have Sunday in peace? The key, Jason said, pawing at her, give it here. He looked back at the door, as if he expected it to fly open before he could get back to it with the key he did not yet have. You, Diley. Mrs. Compson said, clutching her sack K about her. Give me the key, you old fool. Jason cried suddenly. From her pocket he tugged a huge bunch of rusted keys on an iron ring like a medieval jailer's and ran back up the hall with the two women behind him. You, Jason. Mrs. Compson said. He will never find the right one, she said. You know I never let anyone take my keys, Diley, she said. She began to wail. Hush, Diley said, he ain't gwine do nothin' to her. I ain't gwine let him. But on Sunday morning, in my own house, Mrs. Compson said, when I've tried so hard to raise them Christians. Let me find the right key, Jason, she said. She put her hand on his arm. Then she began to struggle with him, but he flung her aside with a motion of his elbow and looked around at her for a moment, his eyes cold and harried. Then he turned to the door again and the unwieldy keys. Hush, Diley said, you, Jason. Something terrible has happened, Mrs. Compson said, wailing again. I know it has. You, Jason, she said, grasping at him again. He won't even let me find the key to a room in my own house. Now, Diley said, what can happen? I right here. I ain't gwine let him hurt her. Quentin, she said, raising her voice, don't you be scared, honey, I see right here. The door opened, swung inward. He stood in it for a moment, hiding the room, then he stepped aside. Go in, he said in a thick, light voice. They went in. It was not a girl's room. It was not anybody's room, and the faint scent of cheap cosmetics and the few feminine objects and the other evidences of crude and hopeless efforts to feminize it but added to its anonymity, giving it that dead and stereotyped transience of rooms in assignation houses. The bed had not been disturbed. On the floor lay a soiled undergarment of cheap silk a little too pink. From a half-open bureau drawer dangled a single stocking. The window was open. A pear tree grew there, close against the house. It was in bloom and the branches scraped and rasped against the house, and the myriad air, driving in the window, brought into the room the forlorn scent of the blossoms. Dar now, Diley said, didn't I told you she all right? All right? Mrs. Compson said. Diley followed her into the room and touched her. You come on and lay down, now, she said. I find her in 10 minutes. Mrs. Compson shook her off. Find the note, she said. Quentin left a note when he did it. All right, Diley said, I'll find hit. You come on to yo room, now. I knew the minute they named her Quentin this would happen, Mrs. Compson said. She went to the bureau and began to turn over the scattered objects there, scent bottles, a box of powder, a chewed pencil, a pair of scissors with one broken blade lying upon a darned scarf dusted with powder and stained with rouge. Find the note, she said. Diley said. You come on, now. Me and Jason'll find hit. You come on to yo room. Jason, Mrs. Compson said, where is he? She went to the door. Diley followed her on down the hall, to another door. It was closed. Jason, she called through the door. There was no answer. She tried the knob, then she called him again. But there was still no answer. for he was hurling things backward out of the closet, garments, shoes, a suitcase. Then he emerged carrying a sawn section of tongue-and-groove planking and laid it down and entered the closet again and emerged with a metal box. He set it on the bed and stood looking at the broken lock while he dug a key ring from his pocket and selected a key, and for a time longer he stood with the selected key in his hand, looking at the broken lock. Then he put the keys back in his pocket and carefully tilted the contents of the box out upon the bed. Still carefully he sorted the papers, taking them up one at a time and shaking them. Then he upended the box and shook it to and slowly replaced the papers and stood again, looking at the broken lock, with the box in his hands and his head bent. Outside the window he heard some jaybirds swirl shrieking past, and away, their cries whipping away along the wind, and an automobile passed somewhere and died away also. His mother spoke his name again beyond the door, but he didn't move. He heard Dilsey lead her away up the hall, and then a door closed. Then he replaced the box in the closet and flung the garments back into it and went downstairs to the telephone. While he stood there with the receiver to his ear, waiting, Dilsey came down the stairs. She looked at him, without stopping, and went on. The wire opened. "This is Jason Compson," he said, his voice so harsh and thick that he had to repeat himself. "Jason Compson," he said, controlling his voice. "Have a car ready, with a deputy, if you can't go, in 10 minutes. I'll be there." "What?" "Robbery. My house." "I know who it, robbery, I say." "Have a car red." "What? Aren't you a paid law enforcement?" "Yes, I'll be there in 5 minutes." "Have that car ready to leave at once. If you don't, I'll report it to the governor." He clapped the receiver back and crossed the dining room, where the scarce broken meal now lay cold on the table, and entered the kitchen. Dilsey was filling the hot water bottle. Ben sat, tranquil and empty. Beside him Lester looked like a feist dog, brightly watchful. He was eating something. Jason went on across the kitchen. "Ain't you going to eat no breakfast?" Dilsey said. He paid her no attention. "Go on and eat yo' breakfast, Jason." He went on. The outer door banged behind him. Lester rose and went to the window and looked out. "Who?" he said. "What happenin' up dar? He been beatin' Miss Quentin?" "You hush yo' mouth," Dilsey said. "You get Benjy started now and I beat yo' head off. You keep him quiet yes you kin twell I get back, now." She screwed the cap on the bottle and went out. They heard her go up the stairs, then they heard Jason pass the house in his car. Then there was no sound in the kitchen save the simmering murmur of the kettle and the clock. "You know what I bet?" Lester said. "I bet he beat her. I bet he knock her in de head and now he gone fair de doctor. Dat's what I bet." The clock tick-tocked, solemn and profound. It might have been the dry pulse of the decaying house itself. After a while it whirred and cleared its throat and struck 6 times. Ben looked up at it, then he looked at the bullet-like silhouette of Lester's head in the window and he begun to bob his head again, drooling. He whimpered. "Hush up, loony," Lester said without turning. "Look like we ain't gwine get to go to no church today." But Ben sat in the chair, his big soft hands dangling between his knees, moaning faintly. Suddenly he wept, a slow bellowing sound, meaningless and sustained. "Hush," Lester said. He turned and lifted his hand. "You want me to whup you?" But Ben looked at him, bellowing slowly with each expiration. Lester came and shook him. "You hush dis minute," he shouted. "Here," he said. He hauled Ben out of the chair and dragged the chair around facing the stove and opened the door to the firebox and shoved Ben into the chair. They looked like a tug nudging at a clumsy tanker in a narrow dock. Ben sat down again facing the rosy door. He hushed. Then they heard the clock again, and Dilsey slow on the stairs. When she entered he began to whimper again. Then he lifted his voice. "What you done to him?" Dilsey said. "Why can't you let him lone dis mornin', of all times?" "I ain't doin' nothin' to him," Lester said. "Mr. Jason skeered him, dat's what hit is. He ain't killed Miss Quentin, is he?" The house passed from view, then he pulled to the side of the street and while Ben watched him he descended and broke a switch from a hedge. Queenie lowered her head and fell to cropping the grass until Lester mounted and hauled her head up and harried her into motion again. Then he squared his elbows and with the switch and the reins held high he assumed a swaggering attitude out of all proportion to the sedate clopping of Queenie's hooves and the organ-like basso of her internal accompaniment. Motors passed them, and pedestrians, once a group of half-grown Negroes. "Dar Lester. Whar you gwine, Lester? To de boneyard?" "Hi," Lester said, "ain't de same boneyard y'all headed fair. Hum up, elephump." They approached the square, where the Confederate soldier gazed with empty eyes beneath his marble hand into wind and weather. Lester took still another notch in himself and gave the impervious Queenie a cut with the switch, casting his glance about the square. "Dar Mr. Jason's car," he said. Then he spied another group of Negroes. "Let's show dem niggers how quality does, Benjy," he said. "What you say?" He looked back. Ben sat, holding the flower in his fist, his gaze empty and untroubled. Lester hit Queenie again and swung her to the left at the monument. For an instant Ben sat in an utter hiatus. Then he bellowed. Bellow on bellow, his voice mounted, with scarce interval for breath. There was more than astonishment in it, it was horror, shock, agony, eyeless, tongueless, just sound, and Lester's eyes back-rolling for a wide instant. "Gret God," he said. "Hush. Hush. Gret God." He whirled again and struck Queenie with the switch. It broke and he cast it away, and with Ben's voice mounting toward its unbelievable crescendo, Lester caught up the end of the reins and leaned forward as Jason came jumping across the square and onto the step. With a backhanded blow he hurled Lester aside and caught the reins and sawed Queenie about and doubled the reins back and slashed her across the hips. He cut her again and again, into a plunging gallop, while Ben's hoarse agony roared about them, and swung her about to the right of the monument. Then he struck Lester over the head with his fist. "Don't you know any better than to take him to the left?" he said. He reached back and struck Ben, breaking the flower stalk again. "Shut up," he said, "shut up." He jerked Queenie back and jumped down. "Get to hell on home with him. If you ever cross that gate with him again, I'll kill you." "Yes, Sue," Lester said. He took the reins and hit Queenie with the end of them. Get up, dar. Benjy, fair God sake." Ben's voice roared and roared. Queenie moved again, her feet began to clop-clop steadily again, and at once Ben hushed. Lester looked quickly back over his shoulder, then he drove on. The broken flower drooped over Ben's fist and his eyes were empty and blue and serene again as cornice and facade flowed smoothly once more from left to right, post and tree, window and doorway, and signboard, each in its ordered place. Colophon. The Sound and the Fury. Was published in 1929 by William Faulkner.